So you know why you're on today, right? You know why you're on?
No, well, because usually I'm on because you're desperate. You can't find anybody to fill in.
No, tomorrow it's a great story. I mean, the Florida Panthers win the big playoff series in Boston, and the first name that comes to mind is Doug MacLean, Island Boy, from
Yeah,
1996. You know, and the Florida Panthers going all the way to the Stanley Cup final. I'm surprised they're not letting you stay.
but
And on the weekend, you dropped the puck on game 3 or 4.
yeah, I don't think I'm gonna. I just saw they made an announcement today that no Canadians can get into the games. Did you see that?
Yeah.
No, no. If you don't have a Florida residency or a U.S. account, you can't get into the game. So I thought that was pretty funny. But you know what? I don't know if you remember that '96 series. What actually happened? We finished, I think, a couple of points ahead of Boston in the standings, so we had home ice. So the first two games were in Florida, but there was a concert that they had booked at the
Garth
arena,
Brooks. Garth
right?
Brooks. Yep.
Gareth Brooks. So we played game one. Then the Bruins had to sit here for 3 days. Harry Sinden was wild. He was wild about it. And we had to delay the second game for like 2 or 3 days. So, they were pissed off. So anyway, and we were up 3 games to none in that series. I think we won it in 5 games. So it was fun. And they had but you know what? Same thing. Their goaltending was just average. What was his name? Billy Ranford was their
Yeah.
goalie, and at the end, Billy struggled a little bit. So anyway, it was good. But I've never seen such mediocre goaltending by a number one seed as we saw with Allmark. It was pathetic.
Well, Toronto saw the same thing with Tampa.
Yeah.
Arguably perhaps the best goaltender in the National Hockey League, and he was at not even average.
It was pretty amazing. I really thought Tampa outplayed them in four
every
of the
game
games.
but the one. Every game but the one the Leafs won 7-2.
Right, and Vasilevsky, who most people thought would be the difference in the series, was the difference in the series, but the other way. And I don't quite get it. But you know what? Here's the thing, boys. You win the way they won, and I said it a couple of times on Nick's show last week and the last couple of weeks. That blue line in Tampa was not a Stanley Cup blue line.
No.
When you get by Sergachev and Hedman, you are struggling on the back end because it drops to Cole, Bogosian, Radish. That is not a Stanley Cup blue line after those two big boys, and they weren't good enough, and they got caught in a salary crunch. Brisbois has kept it together, but not good enough on the back end to be a Stanley Cup contender, in my opinion. I don't think they would have gone far anyway.
So the Toronto Maple Leafs, I think we both agree, did not play well, and yet won. The Florida Panthers, I think you'd have to say, played great in order to win. Yes, they got some help from Boston. That's an inevitability, but they played very well. Who do you like in round two?
Well, you know what? They played well. They were down 3-1 in that series. How does that happen? That you're up 3-1 without Bergeron, Krejci, get them back eventually, and you aren't any good. This is a blue line with Lindholm had brought in a year ago. Orlov they brought in this trade deadline. Allmark, a Vezina Trophy season. Swayman, a good backup. They just couldn't figure it out. But I'll tell you what, Florida played their tails off. Do you remember Keith Tkachuk shooting his mouth off a little while ago about they were too soft to go anywhere?
Yeah, sure.
What was that, a month ago, guys?
About that. Yeah.
Tell you what, I thought, oh, Keith, why would you say that with your kid on the team? Why would you say that? Well,
maybe the message was for his kid.
I'll tell you what, whoever it was for, it was well received because you're right, Bob. They played hard. They took every bit of ice away from the Bruins. There was no time and space, no room out there to operate. And they got on a mission. It's funny how it happens when you get in one of those rhythms where everybody is just paying an unbelievable price to make plays, physically, mentally. The Leafs won because their stars came through at critical times. Like we saw Matthews come through, we saw Marner come through, we saw their stars come through at Riley, come through at key times, which we hadn't seen in the past. So that's going to be interesting to watch how Panthers can slow down. I think it's going to be a tough series. I really do.
Let's also remember, back to the Bruins Panthers. Brad Marchand had a breakaway with 1 second to go in Game 5 that could have won the series, and Sergei Bobrovsky, who was a controversial pick that night as starting goaltender, Sergei Bobrovsky made a key save at a key time, and the Panthers never looked back.
I mean, you're 100% right, and goaltending has been in disarray all year in Florida. You've got the Spencer Knight situation where he had to leave the team for health reasons, whatever it was. Bobrovsky stop a beach ball. They were shooting balloons through him.
Yeah,
and they bring in the kid who played with the Chicago Wolves, won an AHL championship with the Chicago Wolves last year. And not a kid; he's a veteran minor.
30 years old. He's 30 years old, Bob.
Yeah. And he carried them, got them through it. And trust me, Paul Maurice did not want to go away from him. He did not want to give the ball to Bobrovsky because of Bobrovsky. Because of Bobrovsky, he didn't want to give him the ball, and he had to. He was forced into it. And Bobrovsky, got a little of the 50 or 60 million back from him that he wanted. And you know what? This is bizarre. The owner wanted Dale Talon sign Bobrovsky. Basically forced Dale to sign Bobrovsky.
Mm-hmm.
And he wanted him and Panarin. That's who the owner wanted. And so I guess Vinny Viola knows his hockey.
And what does this say? This is kind of a vindication, or is it yet, for Bill Zito, who went out and after winning the President's Trophy, he fired the coach, revamped the team a little bit, and here they are. They got to the second round last year and got swept by Tampa. So here they are in a similar situation to have that problem. Do you think Zito's been vindicated, Doug?
Well, you're always vindicated when you win, and they've won that's a big win to beat the Boston Bruins. Let's not kid ourselves. When you beat the President's Trophy, like they got beat last year as a President's Trophy, team, and couldn't do anything on the power play in the playoffs. Barkov, I guess he is vindicated to a degree. I mean, if they lose against the Leafs in the next round, it'll be like vindicated like all the rest of us GMs and coaches. You're back in shit again. I mean, that's how it works. It goes series to series and game to game. Paul Maurice, they wanted Paul Maurice out of here so bad halfway through the year. And Winnipeg fans were saying, thank God we got rid of him. Florida fans were saying, why would we hire the guy that's got the most losses in the history of the NHL in coaching? Paul Maurice did a hell of a job in this series, and down the stretch. So
I think we all would have thought, at least I thought, that Maurice, if he loses to Boston, is out of a job.
He could have been.
Did he save his job for next year by winning that series?
Oh, yeah, he saved his job. And Bill Zito, look, there was a lot. I mean, I'm down here, and there was although, bizarre, guys. I go to the Hampton Social, which is a great new restaurant.
Okay,
bar.
you're not getting free food and drink by mentioning them on our podcast.
Oh, no. So Jill and I go to the place last night to have dinner and got a table right with a bunch of TVs. It was perfect. The Panthers would score, probably 100 people in there. Nobody was watching the game except for Jill and I. It was bizarre. This is a happening place at Delray Beach, and the Panthers are on 2 of 8 TVs. And nobody cheers when they score. It was mind-boggling to me. But anyway, they had a tough year here. I mean, they had a tough year. Again, limited fan base. up and down, barely made the playoffs, and then they do this. I mean, it's quite a story, really.